the segments for our first ring done. So now I'm just going to go ahead and run down all these 1 1/4 pieces and start making rings out of that. Every ring we do, we're going to increase 1/8 of an inch on the segments here, and that's going to give us a nice gradual curve. So I'm just going to get to that and then we'll get to gluing it up. I've got our first 3 rings done, and these are just solid Bubinga. They're not glued up yet, they're just clamped to make sure all the measurements are right. So now we can go ahead and start working on the rings that alternate between the Bubinga and the Curly Maple. So the first one, we're going to need 14 segments of Bubinga and 7 segments of Curly Maple. And then the next 2 rings will need 7 segments of Bubinga and 14 of Curly Maple. And then the last ring will be the first as the first segment, which will be 14 Bubinga and 7 Curly Maple. And that's going to give us all the segments we need to make the pattern we want, which is kind of going to go up and down like this, just like how our other bowl was. All our segments are cut now, so we'll go ahead and just start gluing everything up. I'm just going to start with the biggest ring we've got, and then I'll just work my way down from there. So there's our first ring done. I'm not sure if I'll put a rim on it. If I do, it'll probably be like the last one, and I'll use one of the thinner pieces I have. But I'm gonna go ahead and glue up the rest of these rings, and then those will dry overnight, and then we'll sand them down and start stacking them. All of our rings have dried for a couple days now. I ran most of them through the planer. The top 2 were a little too big to fit, so I had to do those on the disc sander, which took way longer, which is why I don't like doing it. But everything's sanded down and we're ready to start stacking. I said I might do some kind of rim. I ended up doing this really thin Purpleheart. I've sanded it down on one side also. It's probably an 1/8 inch thick. Hopefully it's not too thin that we lose too much of it when we're trying to get the bowl squared up on the lathe, but I mean, if not, I guess we can just make a new one and throw it on, since it really didn't take very long. So with that, we'll go ahead and start gluing up and stacking on the bowl clamp jig. So I put the first coat of bowl finish on, the inside and the outside, and went to work, and that's pretty much, it's cured up enough to where I can touch it. So this is pretty much our finished product. Still have to sand it down and then put a few more coats on to make it extra food safe. But I like the shape of it. This ring is Padauk, the original ring of Bubinga. It didn't quite, the measurements were off a little, so ended up scrapping it. It's a little less subtle than I would have liked, but I think over time it's probably going to get a little more brown as it dries. The last bowl I made out of Bubinga was a lot redder, so I thought it would work better, but I think overall it'll be okay. I'm sure it'll get a little more brown, and then our Purpleheart rim, that'll probably get more purple as it goes too, but overall I like the pattern. I think it's pretty cool, and pretty happy with it.